Today we're at Chiang Mai Ram Hospital. Pequin has an appointment with a doctor here, just checking her blood, sugar, and cholesterol. We have a annual checkup next month, but she likes her doctor here, so she's going to go talk to him. And it doesn't cost much to see a doctor here, and he has all her history, and he'll just check her out. So while I'm here, what we're going to do is we're going to walk through the hospital so that you'll get an idea of what's here and what's available. And I'll point out some things that you'll need to identify when you get to the hospital. Okay, so let's go into the hospital and see what's there. Chiang Mai Ram Hospital is a medical tourism destination. It's not the most expensive hospital in Chiang Mai, but will cost more than the government hospital. Its international accreditations are displayed as you enter. One of the first things you will notice is that all the signs are in both Thai and English, and a few now are also in Chinese. This is X-ray and also the infamous ultrasound. I call it infamous because I had to drink 2 liters of water to bloat up before they could take the ultrasound. The International Patient Services Desk is mostly for the tourists needing care. Forgive me for describing a few of my visits to the hospital. It's just to help you know what to expect if you have to visit. This is the main waiting room. It's 11 a.m., so there are few waiting since most of the doctors are upstairs with their inpatients. Their outpatient hours are usually in the afternoon. If this were a government hospital, every seat would be filled, and your wait time might be for most of the day. This is your check-in center. If you haven't come here before and your first stop would be this desk, and they'd register you, take your picture, and set you up. And if you ever come back, they'll have your history here. It will all be computerized. To give you an example of what you do here is you come here and you tell them whatever reason you're at the hospital. I'll give you an example of my reasons. I came here one day and I had a terrible headache. So there the back of my head going up to the top. And I felt like I had been hit in the head with a lead pipe. And so that seemed to be pretty dangerous to me. I'd never had headaches, and this was a bad one. So I came here. I sat down at the desk behind me, and we discussed why I was here. I told her about my headache. And the first thing the receptionist asked me was, would you like to see a neurologist? Well, that was an interesting question because I knew if I was back home, if I wanted to see a neurologist, I might have to wait weeks and maybe even more than a month before I could get an appointment with one. She got on the phone. I said yes, and she got on the phone, spoke for a few words, and then hung up the phone and said, she's waiting for you upstairs on the 4th floor. I went to see the neurologist. It turned out to be a thing called occipital neuralgia. I went to the neurologist. She seemed like a young girl, and but I told her my symptoms, and she knew right away what it was. It's a sort of a nerve in the back going up through here, because this is the occipital lobe of your brain, and that's where the name comes from. And it comes back up, and sometimes that nerve gets pinched or bumped or something like that, and it causes very, very severe headaches. Look it up, occipital neuralgia. But I was given medication, treated, and in less than a day I was back to normal. So that's basically how it goes. If you come to the hospital, you might see a specialist immediately. I also came here, my hearing was kind of messed up And I said, I went here, and she said, again, would you like to see a ear, nose, and throat doctor? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, he just happens to be there. And I went into his office. He looked in my ear and said, you got all stuffed up with earwax. And he took a vacuum cleaner, a little tiny vacuum tube, and cleaned out my ears, and I was back to normal. The prices, I guess for that cost was about 1,500 baht. About 500 baht to see the doctor, who was a specialist, by the way. And there was some equipment that had to be used, and that's, there was no medication, but that's what it cost me. For the occipital neuralgia, it was about the same price, but I had to buy medication. And that costs a little bit more. But that's about what the price is. Usually when I come here, the price is between 1,000 and 1,500 baht. Let's go look at some of the other things available here. This is the main entrance to the hospital. Patients can be driven right up to the front door. Those men waiting at the front door are there to help maybe the less than ambulatory patients. They have wheelchairs, and they'll take the patients to where they need to go. There are labeled sections where doctors have their offices in their designated sections. You first report in at the desk and say which doctor you are seeing. Most often, you will already have an appointment time, but if you are just a walk-in, then you'll be given a queue number. Everyone's weight and blood pressure will be taken. The wait time is usually not too long depending on your queue number. As an example, my urologist would see maybe 20 or more patients during his evening hours. My longest wait was about 45 minutes. This is where I had my ears hoovered out. There are a number of places in the hospital where you can have your lab work and blood tests done. When all is done, you'll be taken to the cashier and given the date of your next appointment if necessary. A nurse's aide will take you here and get a queue number from the machine. The cashier will give you an itemized cost list in English if you're a foreigner, and you pay here, as well as pay for any medication prescribed. The emergency room has its own entrance where cars and ambulances can offload their patients. The ER is connected directly to the doctors and specialists on the outside if they're needed. I once was admitted with atrial fibrillation, AFib, I thought, and was brought right out to see a cardiologist. She gave me an EKG, and it turned out that I had the much less severe premature ventricular contractions. PVC. FYI, I'm fine now. We had a Chinese family visiting from China when their young 4-year-old son got a fever. It was late at night, but we thought it best to take him to Ram. We brought him to the ER, and they took him directly to the 5th floor where the pediatricians are. They're open all night there. He was seen and diagnosed with the flu, given some fever medication, and sent home. He was fine a day or two later. A number of specialists have their offices on the 4th floor in the specialty clinic. That's where Pikun is seeing her cardiologist today. It's also where I got my last flu shot. I got the flu, but it wasn't very bad, so I'm glad I got the shot. The 3rd floor has the cafeteria. You can get various snacks and drinks, and even some food. Some of the food is brought in by outside vendors, and you can heat them up in the microwave. A lot of people will buy the food for the inpatients, since the food at Chiang Mai Ram is renownedly not very good. Our business here at the hospital was finished for the day when I ran into this guy in the hallway. This is a robot, and I asked an attendant what it was used for. She told me they use it to deliver medicines to the patients. A very cool way to end our visit. By the way, Pikun's tests were terrific, and she said the doctor was really happy, which is always our goal when visiting our doctor, isn't it? Thanks for watching.